Let's talk about the safety and the manipulation of the safety on the AK series of rifles. Lots of schools of thought out there. First school of thought, or old school manual of arms, is when you get into a gunfight, keep the safety off. Okay, so you would basically come off safe and start to work the gun. And then at that point, you would keep your finger straightened off the trigger and touching the magazine release housing here and putting pressure on it. So I would run the rest of the fight like this. And then when I got to an opportunity, I'd put the safety up. Problem with this, I'm going to keep the safety up for this as I'm working around the trigger here, but it would be off in this case, is putting pressure with the nail bed on the magazine release, okay, on that little part of the metal, the housing there. And pressing down on it is what would keep it straight. By putting pressure and torquing my finger on that piece of metal, basically will prevent me from having my finger slip in on the trigger, whether I fall or trip and fall or get bumped by somebody else or get in, just pile drive by somebody, fall off of something, whatever the case may be, that finger should stay there. The other technique is actually to insert your finger into the trigger guard and have an outward camming motion. So basically I'm camming the gun outward. Now you can see this is a little bit shady, but if you have a good solid grip, it shouldn't be able to pull the trigger to the rear because I'm pressing outward here, okay? And I'm just referencing the trigger. Again, the concept is if with good tension in the hand and the wrist, this should not go to the rear and pull the trigger, okay? Again, the concept, on top of it not being able to pull the trigger under stress, is to have the finger already placed around the trigger so you have a fast shot when you come up on target. So you don't have to sweep something off and then come into the target. Well, here's my theory on that. Number one is I believe they're both unsafe. I need a safety on this gun because also it's one more cognizant thing that I have to do before I take a person's life. Number two is that putting my finger inside the trigger guard, and if I do fall, well, maybe my finger stays off, maybe it goes on and goes off. Or worst case, what if I relinquish control of the fire control grip and transition my gun, go hands-on on something, and now something in my gear gets caught on the trigger? That's when I start to worry. Not about me being able to control my trigger finger and saying, hey, this is my safety. That's not the point. It's other things. It's other things in your disruptive environment that are going to make this gun possibly go off. So we keep the safety on. So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration real quick, and I'll let you decide what you think you should do. All right, so what I'm going to do is I've got my shot timer here. I'm going to fire one round with each technique. The first technique is I'm going to press on that forward portion, finger straighten off the trigger and outside the trigger guard, and then when I'm coming up on target, I'll start to prep and pull, okay? So again, the safety is going to be off in this position as if I've already been in a gunfight and I'm running around. And I'm going to do this from the relaxed position, okay? Relaxed position, safety's off, and here goes the timer. Okay? So the second one, I'm actually going to insert my finger into the trigger. That time was 7.3, by the way, 0.73 to that first shot. Inserting the finger and camming, okay? So let's try that from the relaxed position. .73 again, exact same time, okay? Now, I'm going to use the safety like it's intended to be used. Under stress, how I carry the gun is now a lot of people will complain about this because they can't reach that safety, so they'll come up here, they'll take it off with their thumb, they'll reacquire fire control and they'll fire. And that's why they say, well, I'm just going to keep the safety off. But if you just rotate your fingers forward, you can access with your fingers the safety, and then go right to the trigger. So let's see if that's any slower or any faster. Okay, 0.53. 0.53, they're all about the same speed. That did not slow me down at all. So if people say it slows them down, well, they're only slowing themselves down. It doesn't slow everybody down because it didn't slow me down because I practice consistently by using this safety. Okay, back on, back on, back on. Practice, practice, practice. That'll make you fast. By just saying it's slow because it's a big hunking piece of metal and I got to do other things, you're just making yourself slow. So think about those processes. Think about the controversies. Think about the old school manual of arms. Again, that old and the new. And speaking of new, there's lots of new things out there. Like here's a Krebs custom safety. I don't even need to shift my hands forward anymore. I can just ride kind of like a gas pedal. Take it off, put it back on. If you're running a Yugo type variant, they're on the side too, so you can actually get into them a little bit easier. So these are really easy aftermarket pieces to put on your rifles. They don't cost that much, and it'll make you a little bit more efficient to where you don't have to grab that grip again on fire control, it's already there. But as you can see, even doing the old traditional bring down the safety with the middle finger and the index finger, it was just as fast, if faster, than the other two techniques. So again, safety comes first. It's not so much you and what you're in control of, because you don't get to choose the moment and you don't get to choose the environment. When it happens to you, it's typically when bad things happen and the unexpected. So make sure you're running your safety